And now on deck with the Tom Sox, hosted by Ben Rikosh.
We are sitting here today for a very, very, very special episode of On Deck with the Tom Sox. I am joined by Jim Darin, an assistant coach for the Charlottesville Tom Sox in 2025, hoping to capture another Valley League championship for the squad, making his return to the Tom Sox coaching staff. First of all, how does it feel to be able to say that you're back with the Tom Sox coaching staff?
I'm absolutely loving it. To me, it's living the dream. So I'm an older man, but I'm still got a lot of energy in me, and I'm looking forward to a great season.
Your job with this team is focused on player health, player mental health, and things like that. Their well-being as a whole, more than just a player, but also as a person, right?
Correct.
So 30 plus years as a therapist, as a licensed therapist. What does that role sort of entail for you on a day-to-day basis? Because I've seen you doing some surveys with the players, stretching them every day, just talking to them, kind of being a morale booster, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, it's more than just the physical aspect of the game. It's getting to know these players, understand that a lot of these players are not from around here. They don't know a whole lot of people, and just hoping that leaves through me, they have another person who they can connect with, who will listen to them, and try to help them, help them understand that we're here to make this a great experience for them, to keep them healthy, prevent them from getting injured. That's really my primary role.
And it seems like you clearly have a passion for baseball and a passion for making people better, right? How do you integrate those two things, whether it's through your experience with therapy, whether it's through your experience with baseball? How do those things go hand in hand?
Well, believe it or not, I've been in the baseball world from the time I was a kid playing Little League, so we're looking at 60 plus years. So it's a long, long time doing this. Loved baseball as a kid. For me, though, I was also a really good runner, and
really,
and so I had to make a decision when I was in high school, because track and baseball happened at the same time, and I was a really good runner, so I was really fast, and so I did track, but always had a passion for baseball. And so once I graduated from college and started having kids, then wanted my kids to get involved in different sports, and I had my youngest son who played baseball, and so from the time of T-ball all the way up, he played all the way up through college. He played at a D1 school. So I actually, though, I was coaching rec leagues during that time, but I actually didn't start coaching again until he went to college.
Really?
And so I started with Monticello High School back here, and so it's now between Monticello High School and Albemarle High School. I've been coaching at that level for 27 years. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So let's backtrack a little bit. Talk to me about the decision in high school you made between track and baseball.
I was good at baseball, but I was faster at track. So I was actually.
What did you run?
I was a sprinter.
Okay.
So actually, I ran the 100. I ran the 200. I ran the relays, and actually, I actually did the long jump as well. So again, when I was in 9th grade, I actually broke a record in the 200 meter at that time, and it held for 11 years after I graduated. So
how about that?
Yeah.
And then going to college, you didn't play anything?
I didn't know. I just went to college. At that time, I was just more focused on just getting through school.
Tell me about where you went, what you studied, things like that, and how it impacted your life.
All right. So I went to school in Michigan, and again, believe it or not, I was originally part of the Michigan State University, and I was going into education, and at the time I was going through school to become a teacher, and actually we're focusing on special ed. A lot of my friends who were a little older than me were having a struggle finding jobs after they graduated, and so I'm somewhat pragmatic in that I didn't want to spend all this time and money and effort in school if I wasn't going to have a job when I got out. So I switched to therapy, and that was the track I went.
Why is that a field that spoke to you and a passion that you pursued?
Well, this is going to even sound crazier. So when I was in high school, we had to do what do you want to be when you grow up? I had no idea, and then I thought I wanted to be a teacher. So that's really what I was focused on. And so I had to pick something, and I started reading about other types of disciplines, other types of opportunities, and actually came across, at this time it was called inhalation therapy, but now it's called respiratory therapy and physical therapy. Okay. So I started researching that, and I actually did my paper on those two disciplines. So I had some knowledge of them, and actually they interested me. And when I came to the realization that I didn't want to spend all this time and effort going through becoming a teacher, I switched over to that other discipline.
So I've always thought that sports is kind of like a metaphor for life. You can take so many stories and translate it to whatever situation you want to, whether it's baseball, basketball, soccer, football, you name it, tennis, volleyball. Do you kind of see that's true on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, it is. It is. What all of those sports will teach you is something about winning and also something about losing. Baseball in particular is a game truly of failure, and I can tell you in life, everyone's going to experience failure. And I think all sports will teach you that to some degree, and I think that helps you better deal with the failures that will come into your life. And I assure you, everyone experiences failure, and it's just to know how to cope, develop those coping mechanisms. I think that are really, really important, and understand that at the end of the day, it's a game, and it's not life or death. And win or lose, the sun will come up tomorrow, and it's a new day. And
well said. Well said. Just talk to me about your experience being a part of the therapy world for the last 30 years, both what it's done for you personally, professionally, and what you've kind of seen develop, whether it's through sports or not.
Right. So in the therapy world, my focus was in critical care. So I worked primarily with trauma, transplant, burn patients. Actually, I was a clinical specialist with burn. Wow. So I was dealing with the sickest of the sickest patients, and that's why I think it's given me a better outlook on life. Is that, we come to realize that, the time we have is we're pretty blessed, and there's always someone who has it much more difficult than you, but also told us that for many of the patients that I worked with, that their journey was in some cases going to be arduous, long, but they can still cope, and they can still be successful and have an active life.
It kind of gives you an interesting, unique, different perspective on life, right?
That is correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's talk about your first stint with the Tom Sox, 2017 to 2019. You were part of Corey Hunt's staff. Before we go in detail, you called those years, and this is a direct quote, "The 3 years I spent with the Tom Sox were some of the best experiences of my life. I liked the energy, getting to know the players, and seeing what has become of the players we got to coach during that time. I look forward to more success." Why do you say those words? Why are those 3 years some of the most influential of your life?
Because you had an opportunity, number one, for me to have some influence on young players who are coming up and still trying to find out who they are and what they have to offer. And so understanding that a lot of the kids who are here, they finished their baseball career in college and they're on leading successful lives. And I can there's one in particular that comes to mind who didn't go into pro baseball.
Please.
But because of, I guess, my influence, so this is kind of cool. He just shared this with me, a player from VCU, had lots of questions about therapy. Trying to understand the physics of things, how the physiology of how things worked. He just recently, in the last year, became a doctor in physical therapy, so he's a physical therapist. So don't know that you do have some influence on lives, and don't necessarily know at the time how they're going to turn out. That's just a reaffirmation for me that, hey, what I'm doing matters.
Very cool. Yeah. Let's talk about a couple stats of that team. 2017 specifically. Ranked number 1 in the country by perfect game. First team All-American Michael Wolanski. VBL champions, the first MLB draft pick in Tom Sox history, Vinny Pasquantino. 6 All-VBL selections. Michael Wolanski was also the VBL MVP. Some people have called that the best individual team they have seen in the Valley League. What do you say?
Yes, absolutely. That was an incredible team. That being my first experience with college summer baseball. These guys, they came prepared. They came with such energy to want to do better in the sport. I can say that. It's no doubt that Michael's has been successful. Vinny has been successful as well, obviously, as well as others that have been that were part of that team. But they were truly a team in the sense that they cared about each other. So in the group chat, I'll give you an example. So we get into the group chat, they're checking on everybody, and so there became this joke about Coach Darin. Since they were always wanting to make sure I was okay. They would check at the end of the night to make sure I made it home safely. And so I had to check in with the group to let them know that I was safe.
Did you know that Vinny Pasquantino would be the legendary player that he is now with the Kansas City Royals?
I hope that to be the case. He certainly had the talent. There was without a doubt that he was going to be playing at the next level. He also had the confidence that a lot of players don't have. So he brought that here with him, and he was very confident. He was hitting home runs. He was doing very well. A side note on him is that when and every player that comes into the league or comes in on our team, I do a quick physical assessment. So if you're listening to this, please forgive me. But so when I did Vinny's assessment, he said, "Hey, Coach, I'm just going to tell you right up front. I've got some back issues, and if I hit the ball into the infield, I may not be running full out." I went, "Well, you may have that conversation with the head coach, Corey, because I'm not so sure that's how we operate here, so you may want to make an adjustment to that."
And did he end up running balls out?
Oh, he ran it out. He figured a way to make it happen. And I promised him, I said, "Look, I'm going to figure a way to keep you healthy so that you can run."
How about Michael Wolanski, the VBL MVP that season? What was it about his play?
He was probably one of the most intense baseball players I've ever met. But just as humble and kind as you can be. But when he was on the field, he was fierce, and nothing got in his way. I'm just telling you, he came focused every play, every game, and just did a heck of a job.
So baseball is a game that's now driven by analytics, but at the end of the day, what matters is the wins and losses, right?
No.
Well, how about this? Your total record for 2017, 38-11.
Right.
Talk to me about the progression through the season, and then finally when you took home and you won the first championship in VBL history for the Tom Sox. What were those emotions?
So just to qualify the wins and losses, if you take care of the journey, the destination will arrive. You will arrive at your destination. These gentlemen took care of the journey. We took it one game at a time. So we didn't think that, hey, we're going to win this all. We took it one game at a time, and we're going to win this game. And in some cases, it was going to win this inning. Yeah. Because there's always going to be challenges. And this group of guys, they were totally focused on that. They never lost that focus, and they played with just incredible intensity. I was impressed because I'd been coaching a long time, but I never had a group of players like this. And so I think the difference that we're totally focused on being a winning team, but they took care of the small things. They made sure that that they made the adjustments when we were practicing, so that they can improve their skill, and then they executed. That's at the end of the day, that was most important.
So this is something that I've talked to Coach Tom a lot about too. But the main difference that he sees between high school players and college players here, at least at the Tom Sox level, is their attention to detail, right? That's what you're talking about.
Correct.
Whether it be Monticello or Albemarle, have you seen that?
Oh, absolutely. So at the college level, you don't necessarily have to remind players, did you do this? Did you do that? Don't forget to do this. Don't forget to do that. They come with a plan in mind. Usually their coaches have told them, this is what I want you to do, and they do it when no one's looking. At the high school level, you have to remind them. Did you do this? Did you do that? So you're spending a little more time trying to get their attention, to get focused. These guys come focused, and they come very disciplined. And I think that's what the high school level is going to try to aspire to. It's going to take them a little time to get there. But the ones that do play at the next level, they learn pretty quickly. If you don't pay attention to detail and you don't take care of little things, you'll be sitting.
That's what's most important, right?
Yes.
It kind of transitions well into the next topic I want to talk about, and that's your current gig at Monticello High School. What do you enjoy so much about coaching at that level?
Getting the chance, that's a great question, actually. So there's a lot of the kids, since I've been there for so long, I get to see these kids grow. So a lot of them come to us when they're in 8th grade. And most of them are 9th graders or above, but I get to see them over the course of the 4 or 5 years from being kids, just coming out of in some cases Little League, or out of in coming into playing on a big field, and to see them grow. So they physically change.
Yeah.
And to see some kids who were actually really the stars when they were 8th or 9th graders kind of fade out in some cases, and these little scrawny little kids who were shorter than me, believe it or not, they come and now they're 6'5", and I go, what happened to you? And they also take things seriously, many of them do, and get stronger, stay flexible, and they are serious about their sport. They're spending time when people are not looking to make themselves better.
Why do you think Charlottesville and the Central Virginia area is such a hotbed for baseball? Is it because of the proximity to UVA, maybe even the proximity to Richmond? But there seems like there's so much talent every year coming out of this area, whether it's private schools or public schools.
Yeah, I think UVA certainly helps us. And I think that we actually have a really good feeder program. I think you take a look at what's happening at the T-ball level. Since again, I've had my youngest son started at T-ball here and worked his all the way up to college. You know, they had a great little league, and then from there they had good rec teams,
yep.
And from there at that time, certainly now there's travel ball, but there were other options as well for players, and they stuck together. A lot of them stuck together and grew together, and I think there's just a phenomenal amount of coaches that are here and locally that want to teach the game. So it's not more than just showing up and being a chaperone, but they're trying to teach them skill.
Yeah. So you also have a strong role with Dominican baseball camps, which includes mentoring a current Tom Sox catcher, Jesus Cesare, who's awesome. Tell me about that organization and sort of your role within it. Okay.
So I've been working with the Dominican baseball camp for the last 15 years. So I was it's the 501(c) organization is called Baseball Without Borders. So it's more than just the camp. They the money that they make from the camps actually goes to support players who are in need of. And actually Jesus is a beneficiary of that because a lot of his schooling is being paid for by Baseball Without Borders. So it's a good example of that. I was on the board for the Baseball Without Borders, and the one expectation for the board members that the president gave us was that within the next couple of years, I want each of you to take the opportunity to come down and see what you support. So I went down. And since I am I'm a baseball coach, and I have some good medical knowledge. Yeah. I saw there was an opportunity while I was there to actually work and do the camp. So I started going there kind of like a trainer more so than
that's awesome.
As well as a coach, but as a trainer, and it gave me the opportunity to see kids from all over the U.S. who have the opportunity to see baseball in a whole different light. Understand. The Dominican Republic is a third world country, and so what players see when they go there is how 90% of the world lives. Some of them may have running water in their house, some of them may have electricity. Most of their houses are made out of corrugated metal and pieces of wood that are slapped together. Obviously, when it rains, they leak, and God forbid you have a hurricane, they may blow away. So they truly get to see a very different culture from theirs, along with the baseball culture. Certainly, every major league team has a team there. So any foreign player who is signed, that's where they go.
Okay. And
so they get a chance, and this is for Dominicans and players from South America, anywhere in the Caribbean. This is where they go, and this is their opportunity to get out of their poverty and to do something bigger than what they're used to. And our players get to see that passion for baseball. The people in the Dominican Republic, the players in the Dominican Republic, they play 7 days a week.
Wow.
They spend 6 days a week on the beach working on just on agility. It's an hour-long agility workout, and we put our players through that agility workout, which is taxing, let me tell you. And so when you look at a player who's been in the Dominican Republic, who plays in the MLB, you wonder how smooth they are. That's why they're smooth. Okay, they do the work. And so our players get a chance to see when you're truly committed to the sport and you have passion for the sport, you can do something really big. And so they come away with new skills that they can take and bring back to wherever they're going to go back home. And so for those who want to play at the next level, and many of them do. Actually, it's funny that you say this. It's not just Jesus is here. Actually, we have JD Wolf and Tanner Shadle who've been in the Dominican camp.
That's awesome.
Recently.
Talk to me about a person like Jesus. He's just a love for life. He's so happy, comes in every day smiling. What's your relationship with him like?
So again, 7 years ago in the camp, that's when Jesus joined us as a staff member. He was 16 years old. Obviously had a love for the sport of baseball, was playing local baseball there. Jesus' family is actually from Venezuela. They escaped Venezuela to move to the Dominican Republic to get out from under the regime of Venezuela.
Wow.
And so they were trying to make a life for themselves. They're not they're just they file for residency and have residency. But Jesus' desire was to further his education. He wanted to go to college. So he in the Dominican Republic he got his high school diploma, and so he was eligible then to play at the next level. But then you have to figure out how are you going to pay for the next level if you want to go to college. He really wants to go to college and play baseball, and eventually, like anyone else, his dream is to be in the MLB.
Yeah.
And so he had such a passion when I first met him for the sport, and what's impressive, here's a 16-year-old kid who probably 2 years prior to that didn't speak any English. He barely spoke English when he first came in working with the camp, but that was a requirement because they're integrated in with the players, and since they're closer in age to them, and they actually fill in that he has to be able to speak English and talk with them. And he did a pretty good job, but he has such a zeal for and passion for everything he did, and the desire to, and he shared with me, my desire, is that I want to come to the United States, and I want to go to college, and I want to play baseball.
Yeah.
And so we then, for the last several years, tried to figure out how to make that happen, and no easy task, trust me. So he first had gone through the process of applying for a student visa because there was a school who offered him a full ride. And even with an offer from a school for a full ride, the United States decided not to grant him a visa. So we kept looking at other opportunities, and so there was this thing called pardon me.
That's okay. If you can't remember this.
Venezuelan Humanitarian Protocol. Okay, so it's actually it's multiple countries, but Venezuela was one of those that offered people who were refugees from that country to be able to come to the United States. But they needed a sponsor in order to do that. So we began that process about 2.5 years ago. It took a year and a half before we ever heard back. So I applied to be his sponsor and say that when he's in his country, I will be financially responsible for him. And so finally it was granted last summer, and Jesus was the school that offered him the scholarship allowed him to come. They said, okay, great. If he can come here, we'll honor our scholarship, and that's how he got here.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. He's a really great dude, and we're happy to have him here with the Tom Sox.
Right.
Let's transition to this year's roster, which is a good transition from talking about Jesus. Why was now the right year and the right season for you to decide to come back to the coaching staff?
All right, so you want the honest truth? I'll tell you. So, when Jesus finished school, I wanted him the opportunity to play for the Tom Sox because I thought this would be a great opportunity. Yeah. He's coming home he's going to come and spend the summer with us anyhow, so I reached out to Jeff Burton and said, hey, what's the chances, or what do we need to do to give opportunity for Jesus to be able to play for the Tom Sox? And he said, well, you come to the right place, we can consider him. And so he just needs to fill out the form. He hooked me up with Chesley, and so we got Jesus signed up, and he said, by the way, would you be interested in coming back? And I said, well, if I have to bring Jesus here every day, anyhow, and I plan to go to the games, it gave me an opportunity to
Yep.
think, should I come back and be a coach again? Understand the 3 years that I did it prior were great.
Yeah.
And so yes, it's a grueling summer, and in the sense there's a lot of time and effort put into it. However, I'm retired now, so I actually have more time and about the same amount of effort. So I thought this was a great time to come back and do it again.
Have you been keeping an eye on the organization's success in the 5 years since you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, the year after I finished in 19, so then 20, COVID hit.
Right.
So obviously nothing happened that year. But I continue to follow the Tom Sox, and I can continue to come to the games. This was a great experience for me, and for my family, and to have an opportunity to have players from all over the country truly to come here and be able to play, I think for the community is actually a great thing.
Only a weekend here, so it might be a little new yet. You might not have a great answer, but what's impressed you about the prowess that Randy Tomlin and Coach Coy have after coming off a championship?
So, Randy has a ton of experience. He's played at every single level. Mm-hmm. He knows the game of baseball. He's also been a very successful coach, clearly at LCA. But more importantly, he is a gentleman. He is kind. He is passionate. And I think he's one of these kind leaders.
Yep.
He's clear what he wants to accomplish. So, he's not brash about it, but you know what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate that. I hate ambiguity, and so he's clear where we're going, but he does it in a quiet, respectful, kind manner.
As someone that's dealing with players' mental health and physical health, you'll know as well as anybody the impact that someone like Coach Coy has. His energy every day, his love for the game of baseball, his willingness to do whatever it takes, and sometimes more than whatever it takes to help his team win. His criticism of the New York Yankees. Tell us a little bit about that guy and how he impacts the game.
Again, he reminds me of many of the people I know in the Dominican Republic because of his passion. He has true passion for the game. You know where he stands on everything, and he loves this game, and he does not like to be divided. So I was just sharing this weekend with LCA playing, so he's upset about this too. With LCA playing and the Tom Sox playing, he feels very torn about that. He wants to be in both places and knows he can't.
Oh, yeah.
But when he's here, he wants to be here. He loves everybody, and I think. For everyone to understand is that no matter where you are, anyone is on any kind of spectrum, the fact of the matter is that someone has something to give.
Yeah.
Everyone has something to give to the organization. And Coy gives it tenfold.
Yeah. Along with Joey Davis and Chris Glaze, this coaching staff has someone you're very familiar with in Thomas Abel. What can you tell us about him?
So I've coached with Thomas Abel at Monticello. Actually was part of the decision whether he could come to Monticello or not. He's a great guy. So very quiet, but he knows the game. He's more methodical, more analytical.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we liked about him. And he's a doer. So he's not afraid to get in there and do the work that needs to get done.
Yep. A couple more before we wrap up, Coach. For someone that's done it before, how difficult is it to win in a summer baseball setting? Between the players coming and going, team chemistry, adapting on the fly, 6 or 7 games a week, the mental and physical toll that this takes on a player and a coach is unprecedented.
Yeah, it's challenging. It truly is. But I tell you, if players come here committed, and again, understand that those who are playing at D1, 2, 3, JUCO, whatever, they're playing a high level baseball, and there's a fair amount of commitment as well. So this isn't really that much different, other than now you're playing with a whole group of different players.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit of time to get to know each other, but not as long as you think.
Okay.
And I say that because I look at the teams that we have in the Dominican Republic, where kids come from all over the U.S., and within 2 days, when you're in close quarters and you're doing that many games, you start to develop bonds, and that momentum will carry you. And so no different there than it is here. I think that'll happen here. And yes, there'll be players who will come and players will go, but there'll be a core of players that will be here that will carry us through.
In the 10th season of Tom Sox baseball, this team has the chance to do something that has never been done in franchise history, and that's go back-to-back, win 2 championships in a row. What would it mean to you? What would it mean to the organization? And what would it take to do that?
It's going to take a lot of effort. I'll start with that. I think everyone has to be committed, and that's where we're focusing on right now, is that the players that we bring here, A, are committed, but B, are paying attention to those small things. I'm telling you that you've got to look at your approach at the plate.
Yeah.
You've got to look at your, to learn from your mistakes. That's and make those adjustments. If you start to dwell on the mistakes and don't make the adjustments, then they just become more mistakes.
Yep.
And so I think that's our focus, is to keep them focused. If you make an error, let it go. Okay? If you struck out looking, don't let it happen again. Just we're focused. What do I need to do differently? Okay. Understand where the strike zone is for the umpire, because more likely than not, it's not going to change.
Yeah.
So it's just making sure you take accountability for yourselves and say, you know what, I'm not going to let this team down.
Yeah. Last one for you here before we wrap up. Is there anything else that you want to say, get off your chest to Tom Sox Nation that we haven't touched on already?
I'd love to see more people come to these games. This is a great time for you to come and spend and bring your families. I think you'll have a great time here, and this is where you'll make some memories for yourself.
Coach Jim Darin, it is a joy to have you with this organization. It is a joy to have you back. It is a joy to have you on the show. It has been a joy to talk with you today. It is a joy to see you out doing your thing, helping these players become better people and better players every single day. So thank you so much, and really excited for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.